Guest of today is Ms. Anjali Yadav. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Anji, thank you very much. Uh, Dr. Naveen, faculty members, and dear students, and today's speaker, Assistant Professor, IIMT College of Law. Uh, it's a activity that is being organized by the Department of MCA for their students and staff to understand how to plan for a startup and its legal and ethical part of it, which Ms. Anjali Yadav will be sharing her knowledge with you all people. Startup is very important part nowadays because it generates the employment, and it's a need of the hour because even at the national level or international level, startup makes a difference. Because, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? नवीन जी आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, a startup has its own importance, and such kind of event or knowledge we should that Ms. Anjali is going to be shared with you. You all must attend and come forward always, because these are not in your syllabus. You have to look into it, that how to enhance your knowledge, how to go beyond your curriculum. And at this platform, it's a good activity that department is organizing, and my good wishes that you will learn a lot of things. I congratulate and his team to make their students more beneficial by conducting these kinds of activities. So, and thanks to Ms. Anjali, who will be sharing this today. So thank you very much, and please start the proceedings.
Thank you very much, sir, for motivating us and our students. Because in this current scenario, we are motivating our student to start our startup to become a part of our country economy. Thank you, sir.
Uh, should I start,
Oh,
sir?
it's okay.
Okay. So, thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank the Department of MCA for giving me this opportunity to, to giving me my ideas on plan for startups and legal research ethics. So, I would like to, as Director Sir said that key startups are very important in today's time. So, I would start my topic, my session from here, that startups are very small growing companies founded by one or more entrepreneurs. They are at their initial stage of operations with a limited amount of capital and limited experiences. The government of India has also taken initiative to encourage the growth of startups in order to promote entrepreneurship and employment by providing easier IPR facilitations, a favorable registration system, and easier compliance for the setting up of company, etc. Even then, startups in India have to deal with various obstacles, like funding issues are there, insufficient skills are there, lack of marketing strategies are there, etc. Over that, startups have obligation to operate in compliance with law and follow the ethical behavior. So non-compliance with law or ethical misconduct may lead to the startup to serious troubles like fines, punishment, revocation of licenses, litigation expenses, etc., which may cause adverse effect on the limited capital of the startups. So there are some legal issues I am discussing. The startups may require, like various licenses, permissions, or permits to execute their ideas. As due to lack of legal knowledge, the startups may end up paying penalties and may even end up being unethical and illegal. So the requirement of the license permit may vary from businesses to businesses. Before starting a business, the person should be aware of the local laws, the rules and regulations. The other issues with respect to the license is that sometimes it is not much quick and easy to get the license from the government authorities, and it require a lot of time and money to obtain license also. So some of the licenses required by the companies are registered certificate, like registered certificates like GST certificates are there, FSSAI licenses, import and export code. Yeah, other thing is Udyog Aadhaar registration is also there. So in term of this, dealing with goods and services during which requires a license also, like alcohol, alcoholic beverages, electricity, guns, drugs and medicines, prohibited crops like marijuana, opium, tobacco, food products, human organs, etc., which may obtain proper license from the concerned governing bodies, may attract criminal charges which may lead the business or a person who is starting who is planning for a startup, that person may also suffer in jail if they didn't didn't deal with all of these issues, legal issues, before planning their startup. So next is and the most important thing is GST registration. As we all know, in the current scenario, most startups are looking at the future as an e-commerce business. For such e-commerce business, GST registration is mandatory. As we all know, GST is very mandatory. The businesses whose turnover is equal to more than 40 lakhs should get themselves registered. The process of registration is called GST registration. There are certain kinds of businesses who should get GST registration. Failures to which is considered failure of a GST registration, which is considered as an offense. So following startups or businesses should mandatorily get a GST registration, so that casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, e-commercial aggregators, those who are paying through reverse charge mechanism, uh, etc., should get the GST registration. Next, and the most important thing is permission. Permission for planning or starting a startup. For the smooth functioning of a business, uh, it should operate in such a manner that it should use its resources and productivity rather than the paying fines and penalties. Thus, it is mandatorily that a business should get necessary permissions and permits from the concerned bodies or concerned government authorities before starting their operations. A startup should obtain fire permit and safety registration also. As we all know, it is very important before starting some kind of startup or before starting some kind of business. We should obtain such kind of safety registration. Safety, we should get such kind of safety measures also. The benefit of obtaining these registration is not limited to protection from legal hindrances, but it also benefit a person in availing various government schemes like MSME registration, which can help the startup to get subsidized in loan, taxations, and other schemes also. A startup should get registration under the Startup India registration scheme. As we all know that there is a Startup India registration scheme is also there. Like all of you have heard about Make in India scheme. So we can start a startup about, we can plan a startup in those schemes also. And everybody know that our PM Narendra Modi ji also advertising these things a lot on a national and international level. So next, coming to the next thing, I would like to put a point over here that before we plan a startup, there is marketing and advertisement is also very necessary for going to a certain place. Advertisement and marketing is very necessary. So advertisement and marketing are important for any startup or any other forms of businesses. But advertising false claims, obscene, scandalous, or sedition advertisement may give rise to serious criminal penalties also. So we should, when we plan a startup and we plan a advertisement scheme or marketing scheme for our businesses, we should keep this thing in mind that we advertise our product or advertise our services in such a way that it doesn't lead to criminal penalties. and it may blow away the goodwill and reputation of the firm also. And for startups, such mistake may be like stepping over a small growing saddle. So some examples of prohibited advertisement are, there are some laws related to which prohibit some kind of products that are Prohibition Act, which completely prohibit all kind of direct or indirect advertisement of tobacco and tobacco products in all media channels and all of the media platform. The Food Safety and Standard Act 2006 prohibit advertising of infant formula in order to encourage breastfeeding of infants. Physicians under Indian Medical Council Regulation 2002. Legal services under Bar Council of India rules, prenatal sex determination services under the Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act 1994, alcohol or alcoholic beverages under Cable Television Network Rule 1994, guns and other firearms under Arms Act 1959, medical services and medical devices, religion related comparative advertisement is also banned or also prohibited for using advertising your product and marketing. As we all know that using religion is prohibited because we can't promote our product or our services by hurting somebody else's religion. So that's why this is very important for maintaining balance in the society, so that we prohibit these kind of things. Coming to the next thing, World Health Organization has also prohibited the sale and marketing of infant formulas like Nestle. Nestle faced a lot of criticism worldwide by being accused of violating ethical marketing codes and manipulating customers also with misleading nutritional claims about its baby milk formulas by comparing it with mother's milk. So you cannot compare a mother's milk to the to a kind of your product for advertising your product. You cannot create such kind of things in the on a word platform. Recently, we all have seen that Tanish faced a lot of criticism for violating of ethical marketing norms, for hurting the religious sentiment of the people. As we all know about that ad of Tanish, which faced a lot of criticism in for violation of religious sentiments, of violation of fundamental rights of people. So, and in the same way, we also see Myntra also. Myntra was also forced to change the appearance of its M logo after an FIR launched by a woman against it, and that it marked was obscene because it resembles a women. That M resembles a women. That's why they changed their logo. They completely changed their logo, because that you're advertising your product in the same way you're also hurting the religious sentiments of people. That is not acceptable in the society, or acceptable according to the laws also. So coming to the next thing, allocation of property for the purpose of offices, warehouse, service center, manufacturing units, etc., and is another major challenge for starting up startups in India. You have to allocate some kind of property. You are starting a startup, you have to start your office somewhere, or you have to start your service center somewhere. So it is also a major challenge in India for for allocating a allocation of property also. The startup should be aware of local laws. If we are starting or planning a startup, we should be aware of the local laws related to commercial and agriculture uses of land, school, hospital property. We must aware about the local laws of the of that particular area. So in India, lands comes under the domain of state government, and laws relating to the land vary from state to state. As we all know that land is related to state to state. There is a domain of state government. There is a proper jurisdiction of government, that this land comes under the state, or this land comes under the purview of the state. So there is a proper jurisdiction. We should keep in mind before planning a startup, or we are planning for something like this. The startup must also be aware of the zonal laws. Zonal laws are the regulations that deal with the use of land in particular area. As we all know, if you're planning for a startup, we should also keep in mind the things which are given in Environment Pollution Act, that like you cannot use a particular area or a particular land for polluting something. If you're planning a startup that which deals in some kind of chemicals or some kind of other things which are hazardous for the human beings, or hazardous for animals, or which are creating pollution in the environment. So there are every kind of laws are mentioned in this in every act. So that we should keep these things in mind, that we should use this land for the purpose of business or not. For example, the local municipality authority in an area can pass a law forbidding the use of any property or land for industrial or commercial purpose, as it is the residential area. As we all know that we cannot put a business in a residential area. Like there are number of case laws are also there, and a number of you know uh, case studies are also there, in which you can say that you cannot start your startup in the residential area. As we all know about, like you all have heard about MC Mehta, right? MC Mehta is a person who did so much for environment, and this thing came from his case. Like you cannot put a business or put a industry in a residential area. So from here, the local communities or local government are driving their power, that you cannot put your uh, industries or anything in the residential areas. It is completely restricted over there. So the zonal authorities divide a locality into 8 parts, which include residential areas, commercial areas, industrial areas, public and semi-public, public utilities, open areas, parks, playground, transport and communication, agriculture use. In law, if you have heard about the Willow citizen case, that case is completely based on the playgrounds, that some kind of building was constructed on a area of playground. So that's why, so that we have proper allocation of property or land, so that we can properly manage a balance between the society. So that they have zonal authorities have divided the localities or the properties in 8 parts, like I have already discussed with you. The zoning authorities may decide to prescribe the height, location and map of the building where the commercial work is carried out. The purpose of the zonal authorities is to separate residential areas and the commercial areas. So there is a purpose of zonal authorities, that they have to separate the areas between, there is a separate residential area, and the other side there is a commercial area. So it is the duty of zonal authorities. It comes under their purviews that they have to separate the areas on the basis of residential or commercial things. Coming to the next thing, if we are planning for the startup, then there is one thing which comes in our mind, that our data protection.
1 minute, ma'am. Your slide is not visible, I think. You have
Hello.
shared a slide or not?
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
If it is not needed, no problem. But I think you have shared your slide, no?
Okay, I have
If it is
shared
not
my
required,
screen.
it's okay. Please continue.
Okay, sir. Okay. Data. We talk about data protection and privacy issues. Uh, like if we are planning for a startup, it is must that data protection and privacy issues are must. In the era of digitalization, everyone is using any kind of internet devices, be it a smartphone or PC. Over the COVID-19 pandemic was like icing on the cakes for the fielding of digitalization, and many businesses, offices, courts shifted their work online. So the data protection is very much needed, because what COVID-19 shows us, that we need the digitalization. We need this in this era. So everything is shifted to the digital world. So as the startups, there are online mode which bring huge opportunities for the startups also. In the As we all know that that digital world, it said they say that privacy is a myth. So the startup should give importance to the privacy of the users also. It could be it could be done by drafting a privacy policy in a short, simple, and a summarized manner. So if you are planning for the startup, you can draft a simple privacy policy for your customers, so that it should be it should be short, and it should be simple, and it should be in a summarized manner, so that people can go through it, and people can understand it easily, so that they can be they can feel safe that if we are giving our numbers or anything to this company, then our data is protected, our data is safe. So that's why it should be, the privacy policy is very much short, simple, and summarized form. And it should also be given in regional languages. As we all know, if we are dealing with Punjabi customers, then it must be in Punjabi language also. Any of the regional languages, it can be in any of the regional languages. So that before signing into any application, the user may easily read it and understand it, the privacy policy, terms, conditions. So it must be easier for the user to read it and sign in, and read the terms and conditions for their betterment. Coming to the next thing, data protection is also necessary, and the protection of intellectual property rights is also necessary if you are planning for the startup. So intellectual property rights are like the heart and soul of the startup. If Many startups are facing a common fear that their idea or plan could be stolen by someone. So it is important for a startup to protect their intellectual property rights on the priority basis. And other issues is also that the startup should also check that what they are planning to do or what they are planning to sell is already been protected or not. If you are planning to do something in the market, or if you are planning to sell your some product or services in the market, is it already available in the market or not? Is your idea is protected or not? So the protection of intellectual property right is also necessary, so that they may not face problems like trademarks infringement or other IP violations also. After the investment, a big sum of fund in their businesses. Like if you have planned a startup and if you faced some kind of trademark infringement, and in these kind of cases you face a lot of fund, a lot of your fund is you just see your lot of your fund go into the penalties, or you wasted your huge amount of fund. So it is very much important, so that you protect your intellectual property, right? Your ideas, your all of the things which you have planned for the startup. The requirement of intellectual property rights protection may be different from one startup to another startups. Startups should seek to protect the following intellectual property rights, like patents, copyrights, trademark, services marks are also there. Uh, Trade secret and confidentiality agreements are there. So these kind of patents and these kinds of copyright, trademarks, these all of these things should be secured, so that a person or a businessman would not face some kind of hindrances in future. So these things are important. And if we are planning for the startup, then contract management is also important. As we all studied about the contract law, that any agreement enforceable by law is known as contract. And if you are if you are planning for a startup, or if you are dealing in a startup, you have to make many contracted contracts with your other people. Like a startup must be careful while drafting a contract, and while signing it. A startup goes through several contracts with suppliers. You have to make a contract or agreement with supplier, employees, or other person which for them for your startup should your startup is important, you have to make those contracts so that you just feel secure. So contract management should also be there. For the purpose of references, it would be ideal for the startup to go through the sample contract. It can be available in online market also, or pre-existing companies which may help them to draft a good contract. You can also help you can also go for those sample contracts. You can go for online for those sample contracts, or you can take some help from some uh, other companies or from advocates. You can help them, you can seek help. So these things are important. Contact management is also very important for planning a startup, how you contract with people and how a agreement should be, how a proper agreement should be there. There should be a proper agreement. So all of these things are very important. Next, if we discuss about the ethical issues of the startup, the when we plan a startup, we already be prepared for the earning profit is there in our mind. So the purpose of a startup is to earn profit, but while earning profit, ethics should not be ignored. We can, of course, we all have to earn profit, but there are some ethics which we cannot ignore. The startup should comply with the law and regulations, and at the same time it should not forget their duties toward the community, people, customers, and companies also. So there are some there are some duties which we talk about, which there are some duties which a person should follow, and like duties towards your customers, duty towards your employee, duty towards the environment. If you are planning a startup, you can do something for the environment. There is CSR thing, you must be aware of that. So you have a particular duty towards your environment, that you should keep your environment safe and pollution free. Because of your startup, environment should not be polluted. Because of your any activity of your services, you're providing a services, your customer should feel satisfied, your employees should feel satisfied. You have a proper duty towards the employees, customers, environment, duty towards the startup. If you are planning a startup, obviously you have a major duty towards your startup, duty towards the legal things, legal issues. There are some legal issues. You have to, appoint a person for managing your legal issues. So there are some duty towards the community, community at large. We all have a duty towards our community. Like if we are planning a business, we are earning profit, then we are paying back it to the society. We have to pay back it to the society for the development and for betterment of the society. So issues with respect to labor laws also. Most important thing is labor law. So use of use of these things also in mind, that we should not use inappropriate marks or deceptive marks related to the startup. Like if we cannot use any kind of inappropriate marks for our startup. So these are some ethical issues which one person should keep in mind while planning for the startup. That's all for now. I think I would like to over the session to Akanksha ma'am. uh, that's all for today. Thank you.
Excuse me. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. सर एक क्वेश्चन पूछना है मुझे।
इनका तो चांस दिया ही नहीं, बोलेंगे मैम। our student would like to ask some questions, because usually they don't want to ask any question. So one student wants to ask some question.
Yes sir, yes.
मैम अगर टेक्स फील्ड में जाना चाहते हैं, जैसे स्टार्टअप्स करना चाहते हैं टेक फील्ड में, तो मैम क्या क्या प्रिकॉशंस लेने पड़ेंगे उसके लिए, एथिकल इश्यूज ना हो, जैसे साइबर रिस्क भी अगर ना हो।
टेक्स की फील्ड में जाना चाहते हैं?
यस मैम, टेक स्टार्टअप अगर कोई स्टार्ट करना चाहते हैं।
टेक स्टार्टअप अगर आप स्टार्ट करना चाहते हैं, तो देयर आर द इश्यूज वी हैव डिस्कस्ड। मैंने जो इश्यूज आपको बताए, एथिकल इश्यूज, वो हमें दिमाग में बस अपने रखने हैं कि वी शुड नॉट we should not violate any of these ethics वी शुड नॉट इग्नोर दीज थिंग्स। और अगर आप टैक्स की फील्ड में जाना चाहते हैं तो वी हैव अ प्रॉपर टैक्स सिस्टम, वी हैव अ प्रॉपर एक्ट ओवर देयर। सो बस उस एक्ट को हमें अपने दिमाग में रखना है कि हम किसी उस एक्ट की वो चीजें हैं जो हम उसमें पड़ी हैं, उन चीजों को हम वायलेट ना करें अगर आप टैक्स की फील्ड में जाना चाहते हैं। बाकी एथिकल इश्यूज की अगर हम बात करें तो एथिकल इश्यूज तो सेम ही रहते हैं, लीगल इश्यूज ऑफ कोर्स डिफरेंट, थोड़ा डिफरेंट हो जाते हैं। अदरवाइज अगर हम एथिक्स की बात करें तो एथिक्स जो है जो है सेम रहता है। एथिक्स की अगर हम बात करें तो लीगल वेरी करता है सब्जेक्ट टू सब्जेक्ट, कि आप किस सब्जेक्ट की बात करें। तो लीगल इश्यूज लीगल इश्यूज डिफरेंट हो सकते हैं, बट एथिकल इश्यूज आर ऑलवेज सेम।
पूरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि अगर मैं टेक फील्ड में कोई स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट करना चाहता हूँ तो मुझे क्या क्या इश्यूज आएंगे, की पॉइंट उसके बता दीजिएगा अगर कोई एथिकल इश्यूज आएंगे। और सबसे बड़ा मे भी टेक फील्ड में सबसे बड़ा पॉइंट ये भी होगा कि साइबर रिस्क भी हो सकता है। अगर मेरा जैसे वॉल्यूशन कोई अगर मैं डाटा का स्टार्ट कर रहा हूँ तो डाटा का वॉल्यूशन हो सकता है। तो हमें कोई ऐसे की पॉइंट बताइए जिससे हमें अवेयर रहना चाहिए, सारे प्रिकॉशन रहना चाहिए।
एक्चुअली मुझे आपकी आवाज बिल्कुल क्लियर नहीं है, बट जितना मैं समझ पाई हूँ शायद आपका क्वेश्चन ये है कि आपको टेक्स फील्ड में कोई स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट करना है और आप कुछ लीगल इश्यूज की बात कर रहे हैं कि उसमें कोई लीगल इश्यूज ना हो, या आपने कहा कि साइबर सिक्योरिटी से रिलेटेड कोई प्रॉब्लम ना हो। देखिए, अगर हम अपना स्टार्टअप अगर शुरू कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे स्टार्टअप आप ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म पे ही स्टार्ट करेंगे, सारे स्टार्टअप डिजिटलाइज्ड ही होते हैं। ठीक है, कुछ स्टार्टअप्स ऐसे होते हैं जो फिजिकली आप स्टार्ट करते हैं, कुछ स्टार्टअप आप ऑनलाइन स्टार्ट करते हैं। सो ऐसा नहीं है कि हर किसी एक चीज की अलग अलग वेरिएशंस होते हैं चीजों में, कि आप अलग अलग चीजों को देखते हैं अलग अलग तरीके से। तो अगर हम आप बात करिए साइबर सिक्योरिटी की, तो उसमें हाँ बिल्कुल साइबर सिक्योरिटी में हमें ये चीज दिमाग में रखनी है कि साइबर से रिलेटेड हमारे पास बहुत जो है आपको प्रिकॉशंस लेना पड़ेगा। अगर साइबर से रिलेटेड आपने बात करी है तो साइबर से रिलेटेड आपको प्रिकॉशन लेना पड़ेगा। बाकी जो एथिकल इश्यूज हमने डिस्कस किए वो सेम रहेंगे एज इट इज। आई थिंक आपका क्वेश्चन शायद यही था।
Hello. Okay, ma'am. I think Anuj has got the answer of his question. Another student would like to ask a question. Okay.
मैम माय नेम इज सर। मैम मैं मुझे ये पूछना था, मैम मैं अगर सर्विस बेस्ड स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट करता हूँ जैसे OLX है या फिर ओला है, अदर भी है, ओयो है, इस टाइप के स्टार्टअप में अगर स्टार्ट करता हूँ तो इसमें और क्या क्या इशू आ सकते हैं? तो मुझे
इसमें और क्या क्या लीगल इश्यूज आ सकते हैं?
मैम मैं अपनी स्टार्टअप सर्विस बेस्ड स्टार्ट करना चाहता हूँ, लाइक ओला, ऊपर या फिर ओयो है, बहुत सारे हैं, OLX हैं, इस टाइप के सर्विस में स्टार्ट करना चाहता हूँ। तो मुझे किस चीज़ों से अवेयर होना चाहिए, किस टाइप के ये चीज़ें होनी चाहिए,
किन चीजों से अवेयर होना चाहिए? ओके, जैसा मैंने पहले बताया कि अगर हम एक स्टार्टअप प्लान कर रहे हैं तो सबसे पहली चीज कि हमारे पास फंड होना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। हम किस एरिया में स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, उस एरिया में ओला या जिस तरीके की सर्विसेज की आप बात कर रहे हैं, क्या वहां के लोग उस सर्विस को जो है प्रॉपरली रिसीव करने के मोड में है, उनका मेंटालिटी उस हिसाब का है कि वो उस सर्विस को जो है रिसीव कर सकते हैं। ठीक है, पहली चीज ये हो गई। दूसरी चीज हमारा फंड हो गया कि हमारे पास प्रॉपर फंडिंग है नहीं है या नहीं है, या हमें कौन एजेंसी फंड कर रही है, फंड कर सकती है। ठीक है, तीसरी चीज हम अपने मार्क्स और लोगोस की बात करते हैं कि जब हम कोई सर्विस स्टार्ट करते हैं तो हमारे मार्क्स और लोगोस जो है वो इस तरीके के होने चाहिए कि वो आपके कोई एग्जिस्टिंग कंपनी है उससे मैच ना करते हो, या आपकी जो आप जो उन चीजों को कोई ऐसे ऑब्सीन या वल्गर नहीं होने चाहिए, है ना। या हमें जो चीजों की जरूरत है प्रॉपर हमारे पास लाइसेंस होना चाहिए, परमिशंस होनी चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटीज की जिस भी चीज में, जिस भी सर्विसेज में आप डील कर रहे हैं उससे रिलेटेड एक गवर्नमेंट बॉडी होगी, गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटी होगी, आपके पास प्रॉपर वहां से अगर आपके पास अगर प्रॉपर जो है लाइसेंस की परमिशन होगी, बाकी चीजों की परमिशन होगी, तो यू वुड नॉट लीड टू पेइंग end up paying heavy fines or heavy penalties over there. So ये कुछ बेसिक चीजें हैं जो हमें दिमाग में रखनी चाहिए स्टार्टअप प्लान करने से पहले, या फिर आपका जो आपके माइंड में जो आइडिया है उसको आप कैसे सिक्योर कर रहे हैं। कि ऐसा है, देखिए जैसे आपने कहा कि मैं जो है ओला या उबर या ओयो इस तरीके की सर्विसेज के बारे में, स्टार्टअप के बारे में सोच रहा हूँ, तो सबसे पहली चीज तो वो जो आप सर्विसेज जो आप देना चाह रहे हैं मार्केट में वो अवेलेबल है ऑलरेडी कि नहीं है। दूसरी चीज कि आप जिस कम्युनिटी में, जिस एरिया में वो सर्विस प्रोवाइड करना चाह रहे हैं, वहां के लोग उस सर्विस को किस तरीके से जो है रिसीव करने के मोड में है कि नहीं है। तो ये कुछ बेसिक थिंग्स चीजें हैं जो हमें जो है दिमाग में रखनी चाहिए बिफोर स्टार्टिंग और प्लानिंग अ स्टार्टअप।
एक्सक्यूज मी मैम, मैम अगर इन्हीं का कॉम्पिटिटर बनने के अगर चाहते हैं, जैसे ओला का ऊपर आया, वैसे ही अपना एक स्टार्टअप साथ में कॉम्पीट कराने के लिए स्टार्ट करें।
कैन यू प्लीज रिपीट योर क्वेश्चन? आप एक बार दोबारा रिपीट कर देंगे?
मैम जैसे मैम कम्पीट कर सकते हैं, ओला का उबर आया एक, वैसे ही मैम कम्पीट करने के लिए क्या अपनी कंपनी भी तो स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं
कंपटीशन में?
यस मैम।
हाँ बिल्कुल आप कर सकते हैं, कंपटीशन में तो आप बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं। ऐसा थोड़ी ना है कि किसी एक चीज की एक ही कंपनी हो सकती है। शूज का अगर एक ब्रांड है तो दूसरा ब्रांड नहीं हो सकता, या जोमेटो है तो स्विगी नहीं हो सकता। बिल्कुल कंपटीशन में तो आप कितनी भी चीजें स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं, कोई उसमें रोक नहीं है कि आप किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया या फील्ड में काम नहीं कर सकते, या लॉ आपको कहीं से रिस्ट्रिक्ट करता है किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया में काम करने से। नहीं, तो आपको कभी नहीं रोकता। बस आपका जो ऑब्जेक्ट है वो लॉफुल होना चाहिए। लॉफुल ऑब्जेक्ट है तो लॉ आपको कभी रिस्ट्रिक्ट, कभी बार नहीं करेगा किसी भी चीज में डील करने से। तो ऐसा नहीं कंपटीशन में आप चीजें नहीं ला सकते, ऑफ कोर्स ला सकते हैं। और हमारे सामने बहुत सारे एग्जांपल्स भी हैं, जो जैसे आपने खुद ही एग्जांपल दिया ओला का, उबर का, या जोमेटो हो गया, स्विगी हो गया, या देयर आर नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स आउट देयर इन द मार्केट जो कंपटीशन में ला रही हैं चीजों को। तो देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम।
हेलो मैम, हेलो
Okay, Imad, you want to ask question? Ask the question.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये कि मैम मेरा एक प्लान था कि जैसे मैम फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने आने वाले फ्यूचर में जो कि मैम मतलब इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल के मतलब दौर आने वाले हैं, मतलब फिर पेट्रोल डीजल गाड़ी, सीएनजी गाड़ी फ्यूचर में बंद होके इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चलेंगी। तो मैम मेरे दिमाग में प्लान ये था कि मैम जैसे पेट्रोल पंप हो लगते हैं हाईवे पे, उसी तरह से मैम मतलब व्हीकल पॉइंट, मतलब ये चार्जिंग पॉइंट टाइप का कुछ खोलने के लिए। बट मेरे पास ना ही कोई फंडिंग है, ना ही कोई कैसे किया जाए। मैं अकेले हूँ, तो मुझे क्या करना चाहिए मैम? इससे मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ, मुझे कहाँ से हेल्प मिल सकती है इसमें?
देखिए, फंडिंग के लिए तो आपको पहले अपना एक पूरा प्रपोजल तैयार करके आपको एजेंसीज के पास आपके पास अगर एक आइडिया है तो आपके वो माइंड में है अभी आइडिया, आप उसको पूरा एक उतारें उसे कागज पे, और उसके बाद आप देखें उसमें आप करना क्या चाहते हैं। बट देयर आर लॉट ऑफ फंडिंग एजेंसीज आउट देयर जो आपके स्टार्टअप को फंड करते हैं, ठीक है, फंड देते हैं। बहुत सारे लोग हैं, बहुत सारे बिजनेसमैन हैं जो आपके शेयर्स में फंड देते हैं लोगों को। शेयर, जैसे आपके साथ आप ही का प्लान है तो आप ही के साथ शेयरिंग करके वो फंड देंगे। सो ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें। सबसे फॉरमोस्ट थिंग तो ये है कि आप पहले अपने उस प्लान की, आपने जैसे कहा कि आप एक इलेक्ट्रिक जैसे पेट्रोल पंप्स होते हैं उस तरीके से आप इलेक्ट्रिक जो है व्हीकल के बारे में चार्जिंग पॉइंट्स देना चाहते हैं जगह जगह पे। तो आपको पहले उसको प्रॉपरली कि आपके ये तो एक रॉ आइडिया हो गया आपका, एकदम बिल्कुल रॉ आइडिया। आप प्रॉपरली पहले उस आइडिया को जो है लिखिए कहीं पे, या प्रॉपरली उस आइडिया को जो है एक उसकी प्रेजेंट करने लायक उसको बनाइए प्रॉपरली, कि जिससे लोग आपको फंड दें। क्योंकि जब तक आपका आइडिया समझ में नहीं आएगा लोग फंड प्रोवाइड नहीं करा पाएंगे।